Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaadhyayinim Ambatvamanusandathami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshinim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tatkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na Vidussura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. So let us chant 5 verses starting with verse number 24 of the 4th chapter. Number 24, which is on page number 28 of this book. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havihi Brahmarpanam Brahma Havihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaivatena Gantavyam Brahmaivatena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina Daivameva Pare Yagyam Daivameva Pare Yagyam Yoginah Paryupasate Brahmagnavapare Yagyam Brahmagnavapare Yagyam Yagyenaiva Upajuhvati Shrotradirindriyanyanye Shrotradirindriyanyanye Samyamagnishu Juhvati Samyamagnishu Juhvati Shabdadin Vishayananye Shabdadin Vishayananye Indriyagnishu Juhvati Sarvani Indriya Karmani Sarvani Indriya Karmani Prana Karmani Chapare Prana Karmani Chapare Atma Samyama Yogagnau Atma Samyama Moga Juhvati Jnana Dipite Dravya Yajnastapo Yajnaha Dravya Yajnastapo Yajnaha Yoga Yajnastatapare Yoga Yajnastatapare Swadhyaya Jnana Yajnascha Swadhyaya Jnana Yajnascha Yataya Samshitavrataha Samshitavrataha. Beautiful section. So we saw Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaivatena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. So there, just a quick revision before we go on. So there, this is an expression of a person who has achieved the goal of life. And a person who's achieved the goal of life is the one who has become free of one's identification with limitations. So these are, I'm choosing the words carefully. The fact of the matter is that the sense of limitation, believe it or not, this is exactly why we fight it. The sense of limitation is not natural to us. In fact, the sense of unlimitedness, complete freedom, is our real nature. And the very classical example we give is that of a room space. The roomness of the space is not natural. It is an imposition. It's an identification. You, for whatever reason, you've chosen to see yourself as a room space. But there's no independent entity called room space. There's only one independent entity called space, which by its very nature is unlimited. So therefore, the identification with my sense of problems in my life is due to my identification with the sense of limitations. And one who has correctly understood it is the one who has achieved the goal of life. So the sense of non-limitation is not to be acquired. It is nothing new. But the sense of limitation as a superimposition needs to go because of the correct understanding. So here in this verse, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina is the definition of a free person. Brahma Karma Samadhina. And here Lord Krishna points out that this is the aparoksha jnanam. So as you know very well, we have talked about this before, that there are three stages of making progress in life. So one is you are born into a natural sense of limitations. So this is called ajnanam. And there, for example, the very famous example of the 10th person should always be kept in mind, that the state of the person who thinks that one person is definitely lost and the loss of life is very significant and I don't know what's going to happen to us, this expression of limitation, that it is done, one person is lost, is called ajnanam. This is one stage of life. Then the second stage of life is where through instructions and so on and so forth, and in the example of the 10th man, there's a person who just is passing by singing a song, and he finds these bunch of boys, they are wailing and they are in deep sorrow. And he was curious and he says, what happened? Why are you guys, it's not just a normal thing, you're happy, unhappy. These are very, very unhappy. So the guy says, sir, I can't tell you, there's a guy who just got swept away in the water and I'm responsible for it and he's gone. So he says, so what's the problem? You were 10 of you and then now you think that one is lost? He says, yes, that's exactly what it is. He says, you know what? I found the 10th person. He could tell that they made an error in counting and he said, I found it. So don't worry about it. This represents the second stage of life. The second stage of life is that there is something which is unchanging. Amidst all the changes, there is, because you see what happens is that when you are born into a life of limitation, everything seems to be changing. The life around you is changing, you are changing. And your changing means that you are afraid you are going to disappear one day. And you feel that this is not right. And even normal pleasures of life are interrupted by this feeling that, this is what they say, that you cannot have, in fact, Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says, this is why I've said this before, so it's just a repetition. The only time when you are unqualifiedly happy is after a meal. This is what is called alam buddhi. Alam buddhi means that's it, I don't need anything. I am very happy, I had enough to eat, and it was very tasty and so on. You don't need anything for a while, you don't need anything in life. Whatever happens, happens. Problems with Trump, whatever, it all goes into the background. You're just happy, you just had a nice meal. But it lasts. Actually, there was a Swami in India who decided, he was a scientist, he decided to measure how long the alam buddhi lasts. So he would actually put his stopwatch and watch people. And he published a thesis on this. Published a thesis. He says 5 minutes. 5 minutes on an average, maybe 6, 4, on an average 5 minutes. So what happens after 5 minutes is that the meal is done and so on and so forth. Now life goes on. What's next? Worry again. Oh, I haven't done this. I've got to do this. I've got to pay a bill, and so on and so forth. So really the sense of non-limitation is continuously interrupted by a sense of limitations. You don't have any pure pleasure of any kind. And this is exactly what life is. But then the second stage of life is that not everything is changing. There is something which is reliable, not subject to death, and totally joyful, under no limitations whatsoever. That possibility exists. Before that, I didn't even know about it, and I never didn't know, inquire. But then you find some teaching and some people that represent the teaching that sound authentic. And he says, yes. So this is like this wise person who's coming back and he says, if this is your problem, I've solved it. So this is what is called, so now you have transitioned from ajnanam to paroksha jnanam. Paroksha jnanam. And paroksha jnanam means that your sense of sorrow is much reduced. Much reduced. Swami Dayanand used to say that he would part this out, he would have a dramatic expression. He'll say in the state of ajnanam, you're banging your head against the tree, and your blood is flowing, and all of that, and you're crying, and your eyes are shot with tears, just as an expression. And then when this person says, stop, I found the person. So then the person wipes these tears and says, really? "Are you serious?" He says, yes, I've found it. Just stop crying. Now, he hasn't really found it, but he has found Shraddha in this person. And he says, okay, I understand it. At least the sorrow has gone through some cessation. But the positive joy is not there. And the positive joy only comes in when the person proves to himself that, oops, I forgot to count myself. So this is called aparoksha jnanam. Aparoksha means not different. It's not a belief. It's not a shraddha, no nothing. I know it for a fact. In fact, I talked about that in my talk on Tuesday. You know, the word guru. The word guru is an important thing because gukarastu andhakaro vai rukarastu nivartakaha. The one that removed the darkness is called guru. And there I talked about it, the fact that the word guru really refers to your own self-knowledge. Because what will remove your sorrow is a complete direct understanding that I made a mistake of being identified with a sense of limitation. I am in fact basically free. And until your mind, through the various, so yes, in that sense, the person sitting in front of you is a guru in the sense that engineers this thought, engineers this understanding. The whole Shastra is a guru because through the Shastra, I am able to tell that this is in fact this is in fact the fact. But the real guru is your self-understanding. When you remove the sense of limitations and understand the reality of who you are. This is what is meant by the word Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahma Karma Samadhina. So here what we saw was there's one word that I was looking for. Just 1 second. I was Swami Paramarthananda had given this. So here, karma represents all your transactions of life. Whatever you do, however you take your life to be, your reactions to it, your conscious actions to it, represents the word karma. And sometimes this word karma is also represented by the word dharma. In fact, in I believe, verse number 68 of the 18th chapter, which officially closes the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. Because the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita starts with the 11th verse of the 2nd chapter, which says, Ashocyan anvashochastvam. It's a mild admonition by the Krishna, and he says, listen, what you think you're creating all kinds of problems for yourself, none of them are a problem. You're not thinking straight. Think about it. Listen to me. So this is the start of the process. Then the end of the teaching is the verse number 68, I believe, either 66 or 68 of the 18th chapter, which says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah mokshayishyami ma shuchah. Sarva dharman parityajya. So there the commentary is sarva karman parityajya. So the word karma here, going back to the word Brahma karma samadhina, refers to all transactions of your life. And may all of the transactions in your life be imbued with Brahma. May you never forget that, really speaking, the reality of what you perceive is Brahman. It's very much like a room space, if it has a personality and it is wailing that my walls are crumbling and I'm just going to disappear. Here the example of a wave is even better. Wave is a very beautiful example because a wave feels that I am moving very fast and I am disappearing. And you may have some family small waves that you have generated, some children and family and so on. And you feel you're getting separated from them and they're crying for you because those small waves are now becoming bigger, whereas you are almost disappearing. And you feel that I am in a very bad shape, my life is almost over, what have I accomplished? All those kinds of regrets come in. And so your whole sense of limitation, your whole sense of identity is with that of the shape of the wave. So there, the guru wave comes along and he says, what's happening to you? Why are you crying? And he says, listen, I'm getting separated from my family. And they also are going to, what is the purpose of life? We're all having a big problem. Everything is just changing and it's all going to disappear. So on and so forth. He says, I don't understand why you feel that way, because I know why you actually feel that way, because your identification is with the form, not with the content. You are in fact the water. And the water is never going to disappear. Even if it evaporates and it becomes a cloud, then it comes back again as water. It always remains the same. Don't you see there's only one water in the whole universe, and that is you. And so your sense of sorrow is because of you are identified with the wrong thing. Don't you see this? And the person says, no, I don't. I don't see this. And this is what happens is that our mind has not been made subtle enough, sattvic enough to appreciate it. So my sense of limitations become overwhelming. I'm not willing to really listen to the truth. And it requires a lot of preparation of the mind, where a wave can be told that, don't you see it? And he says, no, I don't. At least in the case of water, you can see it, but in the case of space, you don't see anything. And he said, where am I? I can only see myself as a room space. So this is where the qualifications to understand are important also. But the truth remains the same. You just have to do it. So, so for example, that our whole lifestyle has to change from rajasic to from tamasic to rajasic to sattvic. Without that, our understanding is not correct. Tamasic means that it is too gross, non-understanding. And in fact, all aspects of our life should be considered. Food. Your the kind of music that you listen to, the food that you eat. Swamiji used to say that. He says, all of that becomes important. So for example, if you're used to taking alcohol, or if you take meat, that is tamasic. It affects your mind. And the way it affects your mind is that you will say, where? I don't see any water or any space or anything like this. Because it requires a lot of subtle thinking. You just are so absorbed in whatever comes in front of you. So this is all tamasic. So music, Swamiji used to say that. Swamiji says that really the way we should do that, not only music, but the books that we read, all of that. Instead of looking at just the normal, rock music with the beats and so on, begin to appreciate classical music. And instead of eating meat, begin to become a vegetarian. All of that slowly makes your mind more sattvic. When your mind becomes more sattvic, then the teaching of the aparoksha jnanam becomes more real. And when that becomes real, that understanding that yes, this is who I am, is the real guru. That's the one that removes the sense of limitations from your mind. So the teacher as a guru is just on the side, just getting you to the right point. But the self-knowledge is the real guru. Anyway, here, going back to Brahma Karma Samadhina, it means one whose mind is in samadhi all the time. And samadhi means one who never forgets the reality of who one is. It's like, a room space. Then at any one point in time, supposing there is a person who is the room space. Supposing space has some awareness, room awareness. So supposing there's a personality of a person called I am the room space, yes, that's my personality. And now people come into my space. I see people sitting in my room space. And I find that there is some smokiness in there. And I find there is some darkness in there. In all of these expressions, I do not ever forget the fact that I am the space. And just in this life, I have opted to become a room space, and so the limitations of the room space are not really mine. I am the total space. And the one who remembers, otherwise what will happen is that every time there is a noise, you say, my God, I am in bad shape. The other room is nice and quiet. It's very noisy in here. It's hot. It's hot. So your smokiness, your heat, that noise, all is superimposed upon yourself. When in fact, if you remember that you are the same as the total space, then this becomes like just a nuisance more than a problem. It's okay, it'll be going away. So this is what is meant by Brahma Karma Samadhina. Means that all transactions in your life, all karmas.
I found on the web.
What was that? Is it my phone?
It looks to be.
I think so. What? First of all, I turned it off. I see what happens.
It's never off. It's always listening.
Oh my goodness. Funny. So, at all points of time, one who has understood to be I am really nothing but Brahman in an expression of Brahman. He's in samadhi. And that is the aparoksha jnanam. Aparoksha jnanam. So you see the presence of Ishvara, you see the presence of Brahman, same thing. Really, Brahman and Ishvara are one and the same. You see you're never lost from the fact that you are a pure awareness which cannot be limited. Just like a space cannot be limited, therefore the Atma and the Paramatma and the Jivatma is only one Atma. Not possible to limit it. And one who has qualified to understand it, because if you're not qualified to understand it, then you feel, oh, this is all theoretical stuff. And this is why in this 10th man example, it's a very beautiful thing given, where the person says, okay, I found the 10th person. So he says, okay, show it to me. Show it to me. So then the teacher says, I'll show it to you provided you follow my instructions. So he says, no, just tell us where it is. Because what happens is, in this case, there were boys who were all over the place, some hidden behind a tree, somebody over there, and difficult to count everybody. So he says, collect everyone here. He says, you're making things difficult for us. Why don't you just tell us where the 10th person is? He says, I'll tell you. But please collect everyone. And so he calls everyone and he says, I don't know, it's a botheration this guy is telling me, but I'm willing to go along with it. He says, stand in a line next to each other. Straight line. Not over here and so on and so forth. If somebody's standing there and he says, no, come over here. Part of the qualifications. Then the teacher starts and he says, okay, count with me. 1, 1. And people roll their eyes and says, don't you know that we know how to count? He says, no, with me. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. You are the 10th person. Then things change. Amazing things happen. And so this discipline of calling people in a straight line is a very important one. This is part of the qualifications. This is like saying, please become a vegetarian. Please give up drinking alcohol. And think about it, attend classes. And put your best foot forward in understanding. This was a simple example of the 10th man. This is much more complex. Actually, it is not complex, it's very simple, but we make it complex because I am very convinced I'm just a limited person. What's all this Vedanta, Siddhanta? Maybe I can just do some meditation and then, or worse still, then people, you find that, if the teacher is saying don't drink alcohol, you feel, what do you mean? That's my last resort. That's the only time and I feel a happy hour. That's wonderful. Don't ask me to remove that. I have a miserable life, but this one happy hour or whenever I drink, I feel good. So why should I give that up? So all of that means that you have to be qualified to understand this, but it is the fact. So this is encapsulated by the word Brahma Karma Samadhina. So Brahma Karma Samadhina here. So if you look at the English translation by Swami Paramarthananda, Brahman alone is to be reached by whom? Who sees Brahman in every action. Good, very nice. Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi, Brahmagnau, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. So he said, meaning that your whole life becomes a yajna. This is a very important thing to see. It's not a trivial. And even for those of us that had been studying Vedanta for a while, it took a while to understand the importance of the word yajna. The word yajna here means it is a unified offering to Ishvara. Any kind of an offering is an offering, but a complete unified offering of your life, where you see the expression of life as nothing but an offering to the Lord, is called yajna. So yajna also means that you are aware of the importance and presence of Ishvara in your life. Without that, it is not really true yajna. Why not? Because it becomes very personal. It becomes your own life, your own progress, etc., etc., very personal. Personal in the sense that the sense of limit. Of course it is personal, everything is personal. I'm not saying it's not impersonal. But by the word personal, I mean that it is within the definition of a limited identification. But if you were to expand that, where the limitations are only one part of me, just like saying that the room spaceness is only one part of me. I am in fact the total space, because that is the truth. There's not two spaces. There's only one space, which is me. But my expression of taking the whole room spaceness is just one aspect of me. And so therefore, in all of my life, I don't forget the fact that there is a yajna going on. And my whole life is nothing becomes an offering. As we will study now, there's some very beautiful understanding of all of this. So anyway, let's proceed forward. I think we have talked about it enough. So here, Krishna presents the stages of the yajna. The most important stage, the most advanced stage is Brahma Samadhi. Brahma Karma Samadhina. Samadhina is the third case, by a person who has Brahma Karma Samadhi. This is the ultimate, which is already a done deal, but I don't quite get it. This is the ultimate. This is the best. But it's not the only one. if you were to prepare for it by lesser challenges, this is, if you say, I can't do this, I'm not able to see this, so what, am I lost? No. It is in fact a gradual process of getting there, but the best is enumerated in the very beginning. Brahma Karma Samadhina means this is the best. Then other yajnas that are simpler, more direct, and easier to negotiate are now being given. So now, having extolled jnanam, knowledge, the conduct of your life with respect to the jnanam are now enumerated. So let's go through several of them. And the very first one is given in verse number 25. Daivam eva apare yagyam yoginaha paryupasate Brahma agnau apare yagyam yagyena eva upajihvati. So in that sense, the main topic of jnanam was enumerated in verse number 24, and the glory of the jnanam, in the expression of the jnanam in your life, is now given in verses number 24 through 34. 25 to 34. 10 verses will be given in terms of extolling the various yajnas. So let's look at that. So now, one thing we might do, just very briefly, I think, so here, one very briefly on verse number 24. I think we have done it before, but just as a revision, as a kind of like an example of the Brahma Karma Samadhi, means, so one thing to be seen is that the word yajna, which is an offering, consists of who it is offered to, what is to be offered, and by whom is it offered. So in our Vedic, the various pujas that were done in the temple, the fire is the one that you offer to. Then some dravya, some material is being offered to the fire, and then the priest, as a surrogate to yourself, because you don't know exactly how to do it, is doing this for you. So there is in fact a expression of a yajna which is mimicked by this whole operation. So this is the so here, what is the instructions to do this in the form of a ladle? Arpanam Brahma is also Brahman. The offering Havihi is also Brahman. The one it is offered by, Hutam, is also Brahman. And Brahma Agnau into the fire of Brahman is also Brahman. So this is not easy to understand, and we only a person who has really studied it over a long period of time and has become more sattvic and so on and so forth is able to see this. But at least it is stated. This is exactly how it is. If you're not able to do this, then now comes the other yajna, starting with number 25. So, in this one other thing to see this. This is really a very an important thing to grasp. What happens is that in this expression of yajna, one finds it easier to give up a lot of things that you possess. Easier to give up things. You have money, you give some dhanam to aim for seva. You have some expressions of closeness with the family. You give that up slowly and you say, you know what, let people be free, whatever they want to do. You give that up. You slowly give up good things, bad things, whatever it is, you become freer and freer and freer. Ultimately, though, there is one thing that you find very difficult to give up. And that is your own self, your own personality. And so this is an important thing, because what happens is that as you lead your life, there is one thing that you're very protective about, which is me. So this is what is called ahankara. This is me. And I don't know how to give myself up. How can I give myself up? I can give up things that I possess, but I cannot give myself up. I don't know how to do that. And what is required is that ultimately you give up even that. You give up even your own self, of your own jivatva. We will go into this in more detail. I'm just giving you an introduction. And in fact, I was reminded by a verse that I used to love. And Swami Paramarthananda also had the same verse in his mind, so I'll just recite that. So, this is a verse from Mahabharata. It says, Tyaja dharmam adharmam cha ubhe satyanrite tyaja ubhe satyanrite tyaktva yena tyajasi tat tyaja. Beautiful verse. I remember thinking about this so many times. So he says, in fact, it is very close to what Krishna's number 68 is. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. So what it means is, he says, tyaja dharman adharmancha. So he says, please give up adharma. Adharma means one which is not ethical. Non-ethical things are called adharma. Why should I give it up? Because you are creating a problem for yourself later on. The natural laws of life are that you cannot have a karma without a karma phala. So you think you are getting away with it by not paying your taxes and this, that or the other. Ultimately, you will pay for it. You might as well not create problems for yourself. So adharma you should definitely give up. Then it says not only that, please give up dharma also. This I don't understand. Why should I give up dharma? Dharma means good actions. The reason for that is, again, the same laws. Every karma has a karma phala. If you do not give up dharma, then the sense of enjoyment which will come to you as a result of dharma, you cannot avoid. And that sense of enjoyment is false. It gives you some sukha in life. And you think that is the real thing. So you keep on doing more and more dharma, when in fact the karma phala of the dharma also is very limited. Swami Dayanand Ji used to say that. He says, one thing you should see, anything that gives you pleasure is likely to end in a problem eventually. So, for example, the very typical case is children. You love your children. You feel, my gosh, they're so dear to me. They're a source of pleasure to yourself. There will be one day when the same source of pleasure will become a source of problems. Because it is kind of like a wave. While it is there, you feel good, but it's waning. And one day it's going to disappear. So for that reason, don't postpone your sattvic understanding of yourself by indulging in rajasic pleasure. Rajasic pleasure means based on desires and so on and so forth. What's wrong with it? I can have fun, so on and so forth. What's wrong with it is that the sense of fun is severely limited. You go back again to the same problems. So that's why tyaja dharman adharmancha. Both adharma should be given and dharma should also be given up. Then ubhe satya nrite tyaja, which is the same thing. Satya means to lead a life of truth about yourself. Anrita means one which is false. Give up both of them. Don't feel that this is, when you say the sense of truth, it is not the total truth we are looking at. It is just the transactional truth that everything else is okay. I'm part of the society. I'm functioning well. This is the truth. So, ubhe satya nrite tyaja. Then comes the hammer. So, tyaja dharman adharmancha ubhe satya nrite tyaja. Ubhe satya nrite tyaktva. Having given up both the satyam and anritam, ritam and anritam, satyam and asatyam, dharman and adharmam, having given up all of that, yena tyajasi tat tyaja. The person who is conducting this life, that also needs to be given up. And so this means that your ahankara, which keeps you bound together as a person, needs to disband. It needs to just scatter. Scatter into what? So just like, for example, you have a room spaceness, which is an enclosed space. This is me. This is me. I understand that I am doing some good things, some not so good things, but this is me, whatever I am. Give up that sense as well and becomes one with the space itself. So this is something that we will examine in more detail as we go along. But going back to the lesser yajnas that we started with. So in verse number 25, one of the basic yajnas are given, which is the first line of the verse number 25. Daivam eva apare yajnam yoginah paryupasate. That means that you may not understand the reality of the whole thing yet, but you grasped some individual gods and start the process of offering it to them. Do it. So the yogis, for example, paryupasate means that they also paryupasate means paritaha upasate. Upasana means that they are very devoted to it, and they feel that they are giving up some things. They, in the Vedic ritual, for example, you say Agnaye Swaha, my offering to Agni. Prajapataye Swaha and Brihaspataye Swaha. Indraye Swaha. So you take the individual gods and you have an expression of the very type of giving up whatever it is. You have to give up some dravya or so on, then you have to pay the priest also. That's a very important thing. If you fail, supposing you do all of this and you don't pay the priest, this will not only be fructified, it will be the wrong thing to do. And if you can do it by yourself, please do this. So this is one kind of yajna that is being done. Then, Brahma agnau apare yajnam yajnena upajihvati. So the Brahma yajna also, which means ultimately it goes to Ishvara, even though that I'm doing it from a Daivam standpoint, that also would be okay. The word Daivam is an interesting one. So Daivam means the one which is controlled by devas is called Daivam. So in the analysis of this word Daivam, what is finally resolved in Vedanta is that Daivam is also your karma phala from your previous actions. They are given to you in the form of, devas feeling. Like, for example, take the fire that in the Napa Sonoma County. What a tremendous, wow. It's called Daivam. So, this is what any kind of a natural disaster, rain, earthquakes, fire, is called Daivam. So the Daivam is also not an independent thing that is arbitrarily given to you. No. There's no such thing as that. There's no such thing as an accident. It is simply an expression that you had to pay your dues of your previous karma one time or the other. It's kind of harsh to point this out when there have been so many deaths and so on and so forth. It doesn't look like it's, how can that be? But nothing is outside the realm of the structure of the whole thing. And so the Daivam, all one can do through the prayers to the Devas is to say some Prayaschitta karma can be given. Prayaschitta karma means that even in the background of our lives at this point, there are a number of karmas that are waiting to fructify, both good and bad. We don't know which one will come first or anything like this. But the sense of prayer, which means that I know that I may have done a lot of bad things, but can you please forgive me? I am devoted to leading my life in a better way than before, and I need your help to see if you can stave off. And so this is the yajna for the Daivam. It's really not that different from any kind of a Prayaschitta karma. When I was very sick, for example, then I prayed that I got the right kind of antibiotic, and it did help finally, because I really had viral pneumonia with lots of problems. And so to do some Prayaschitta karma, just to make sure that I am observing whatever needs to be done and so on. Otherwise, if I am careless, I can make it worse. And so the Daivam is nothing but your own karma phala coming to bother you, but you can make some small adjustments with the help of the Devas to make sure that they are staved off while you become better. And so, for example, I think my favorite example is that supposing you overeat and you have digestive problems, then you can stave that off by taking the right antacid pills and so on and so forth, so that some of the expressions of the problems can be gone away. So this is what it is meant by Daivam eva apare yajnam yoginaha paryupasate brahma agnau apare yajnam yajnena upajihvati. So this is an easier yajna than understanding. You just do something as people do. So this is one of them. Then I think we have time for one more, so which will be an interesting one. Number 26. Shrotradini indriyani anye samyama agnishu juhvati. So two more yajnas are given here. Let's look at the first one. Shrotradini indriyani anye samyama agnishu juhvati. So now something is given up to the fire. What is given up is Shrotradini indriyani samyama agnishu juhvati. So what it means is the unregulated sense organs are offered to a regulated sense of sense organs. Samyama agnishu juhvati. Samyama means one which is in balance. So what it means is that you are given certain powers to taste, to see, to touch, and all those are natural things. And if they are not regulated, if they are not paid attention to, that can create a sense of continued limitations. Whereas, if you begin to be aware of who is the boss, what are they meant for, how can they help me, may I really regulate their functions so that they are helpful to me. So this is what is called Samyama Agni. So in short, unregulated use of sense organs have to be given up to a regulated sense of sense organs. This is a yajna. Not easy to do, but doable. Certainly a lot easier than Brahma Jnanam, because these are things that you have control over and you have never bothered until, I'm not saying you have never done it, but we start with the fact that it just be unregulated. I remember this one case that happened. So I was teaching a class long time ago. This is like 20 years ago, at somebody's home in Fremont. So I was giving at that time I didn't have this structure, and so I would just go to people's homes or have it in my own home. So there was a friend of mine who had invited me for some talks. And this poor woman had recently gotten divorced, an Indian woman who had gotten divorced, and she was in very bad shape. And that's how I just said, you should really get an introduction to Vedanta, and then start to get you're okay, you're going to be okay, don't worry about it, it's all right. I was just talking to her. So she was traveling somewhere, and sitting next to her was a senior priest of what is these the people in Salt Lake City? What's it? Mormon. The senior Mormon priest sitting there, very nice person, kind person. And she was telling him that I just got divorced recently, and so of course Mormons are very interesting people. Their sense of proselytizing is just really very active. So he immediately took her name down, and said, people have help you, and so on and so forth, that they'll come and so on. So she didn't think much about it. So while I'm teaching the class, there's a knock on the door. I still remember this so well.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. So she of course wanted to. There was only like 7-8 people there, not that many people. So she says, "May I please open the door?" I said, "Sure." So I was listening in. It turns out that there were 2 young Mormon boys who were sent by the priest to visit this lady. And so I could hear it. So she said, yeah, come on in. And so they said, well, no, we don't want to interrupt it, and this going on. She says, no, you can also come and listen, and so on, and sit down. I'm sitting there, I'm saying, not only she's divorced, she has lost her sense of balance. So I said, I called her and I said, this is not right. Because, tell them to come some other time. She says, but they just came, and I just thought. I said, I know. This was the case where you hear a sound a doorbell ringing, and you don't think about who you should allow, we should not allow. You just go along with it. And this is the unregulated sense of sense organs and so on and so forth. They are meant for you, but you now have to oversee it by having, is this the right time for us to do it? So I actually just stood up and I said to this lady, I said, can you please tell them to please come some other time? And let's go back to an expression. So she was she apologetic. They had already come in and they had taken their shoes off. And so we had to put their shoes back on again and says, please come some other time. And later on, I talked to her and I said, I know a little bit about the Mormons. And if you really want their help and so on, it's okay, but you know what they're for. They want to really convert you. Are you ready to do so? She says, no, I don't want to be converted into Christianity. So I says, you know what? The best thing is to say no. It's okay. It's all right. She says, I know, but they would feel bad about it. I said, well, talking of Mormons, there was another thing that happened very interestingly enough. So my wife had a business partner, and she was a Protestant, Christian Protestant, and her husband is a Catholic, and she wanted to become a Catholic. So she actually went through I didn't realize that there's a lot of training involved. There's a lot of classes you have to take and so on and so forth. So my wife's friend, who was actually going through all of this, and she finally passed it and she was accepted and she was very happy about it, and both husband and wife are now Catholic and so on and so forth. They had a neighbor who was a dentist in Los Altos Hills, a very successful guy, who was a Mormon. And so pretty soon they were walking dogs and they were both happy with each other and so on and so forth. Pretty soon their friendship grew. And so my wife's friend invited them over for dinner and so on and so forth. Then the proselytizing started by the Mormons. And they said, you have to come to our church. It's just so beautiful. There's nothing like this. They don't realize that this woman has just recently converted from Protestant to Catholicism. She spent a lot of her life, but they were oblivious of all that. Finally, I think our friend had to tell them, no, stop. I don't want to be converted. I'm wonderful as your friend and so on and so forth. But it just means that you have to take control of your life, and then what you hear when you hear, what you see when you see, who you've become friends with when you do, all is regulated in a structure which is consistent with where you want to go. This is the meaning of Shrotradini Indriyani Anye. Anye means other people choose to do this. This is also a beautiful yajna. Samyama Agnishu Juhpati. So here in translating this, Swami Paramarthananda did a great job. He says Samyama Agni here means this regulated sense of sense organs, where they become your helpers rather than you becoming slaves to them. This is also a kind of a yajna. So like that, I'll finish. There will be several others that Krishna is going to give as methodologies for giving yajnas in a preparation to the final yajna, which is Brahma Karma Samadhi. So this is how we will proceed further. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Yeah, Shilpa.
So right now you said that we have to regulate what goes on in our life. And in previous classes you said that we need to go with the flow. So
Yeah, no, those are good. That's a good question. So what it means is that yeah, you have to, if there are things that are happening to you, you have to go with the flow in the sense that you have to see that there are a lot of background that created the condition for you, and and you can only fight it up to a certain point. But in fighting it, and in fact one can say that a lot of the issues that we've had in the past is because of the unregulated use of my indriyas. I did things that are not thoughtfully done and so on and so forth. Now that I see the value for regulating it, then I have to make the proper balance between whatever is happening to me now, which is already happening on the way, there's nothing I can do about it, and how I deal with it in the future. So at least it's an improvement where I take control over my life to the best ability I can. So those two are not mutually exclusive. You have to go along with things that are happening, but how you react to it, how you control it, and so on, is now tinged with some wisdom of how it is. Yeah. Yes, Satish.
Unregulated things happen, they are very momentary and happen of compassion of the moment. They are not long-term things there. So if one can have a control over those moments, temporary moments, to get into regularity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely, yeah.
If I understood you correctly.
No, I think that is correct, yeah. Yeah.
It's slightly unrelated. Like after each class, we read the Shanti Patha, Purnamada, Purnamidam. So obviously, there are many other Shanti Pathas. Obviously, we have selected this because it's very important. Why is it important? And when I read the English translation of it, it doesn't make any sense to me. So
It's a very difficult, and the Purnamada, Purnamidam is very difficult to grasp. So I would say that we'll spend some time explaining it. It goes on, but the importance of that is that you can take any one of the mantras that are equivalent to the meaning to this. You can do others as well. But in the tradition, so what this particular mantra talks about is both the Saguna Upasana and Nirguna Upasana. Saguna Brahma Upasana and Nirguna Brahma Upasana. Both are given some thought to, at least expression to, forget about the thought, but just some expression to, as kept in mind. And so in the beginning, you're right, we have not really, perhaps I may have done it in some other classes, but maybe not in the Gita class. We have not explained and I will do so in a short time, what the meaning of that is. And so in the beginning you simply repeat it because this is the right thing for us to think about. And then over time you become more cognizant of the meaning. It very typically is that when children are becoming older, you tell, please do namaste, please do namaste. And so the children say, what is namaste? I don't understand. Why should I do this? Just do it, okay? Just do it. Anytime somebody comes to your house, you must do namaste. So pretty soon that becomes subject to it. Then as one grows up, and most of us are hardly ever cognizant of the real meaning of the word namaste, but as you do namaste, then the meaning of it becomes more cognizant. So in the beginning, yes, Purnamadav Purnamidam, just repeat it for the time being, and then slowly let's get understanding of the meaning of it, and then, really speaking, ultimately it becomes Brahma Karma Samadhina. When you say Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate, then the whole vision behind the teaching becomes clear. So it's a gradual process that will happen. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Is there a hierarchy for the yagnas, like surrendering ego, stopping to eat certain things?
I think we'll have to, I'm not sure there's a hierarchy, but I would say that what one should do is what one's problems in life are. You can select things, if you think that the problem is more the fact that, so this is all what is called Shama, Dhamma, Uparama and all that. So here we're talking about Dhamma Nigraha, Yajna from the Dhamma standpoint. It's very possible that you may feel that Dhamma is not my problem. I can regulate my outside things very well, but my mental thoughts need to be paid more attention to, which is Shama. So like that, there will be all the possibilities given, and then perhaps in terms of, because the priority is not common to everyone, everyone is slightly different, you've come along, so out of them, then you will say, you know what, this is what I need to work on to improve yourself.
It's more of a self-regulation.
Self-regulation and also self-selection. So that's why he uses the word apare, anye. Some people do this, some people do that. Doesn't mean everybody has to do it, because if that's not their problem,
Right.
So let's finish this list, another 2-3 classes, and then it'll be a good idea to summarize it and say which ones we will work on and so on. Yeah. Yes.
You spoke about conversion, and a lot of religions have that strong need for conversion. They feel that is the way
Yes.
they go to heaven, that's the way you go to heaven, for the better good is what they believe
Yeah.
they are doing. And for example, like when we invite somebody, I invite a friend to this class because I find them curious, or I care about them enough, and they're worrying about the wrong things, so I invite them to class, and this is how I generally do. But I'm just asking this question, is caring and compassion the only way we invite other people to Vedanta or Hinduism? Or should
I
we
think
even do that?
I think that you can certainly try, but then this really has to come from their own self. So there's not a conversion, and you don't become a Hindu per se. Some people have decided to do that. But you can stay within your own religious thoughts. So this is very much like the laws of physics. So it's not Indian physics or American physics or anything, it's physics. And by Staying as an Indian, you can appreciate physics. Staying similarly here also as a Christian, you can understand there's no conversion involved in this. It's really more of an understanding. And it's very possible that you may come across certain tenets of your religion they're dramatically opposite to what is being said. And then you have to make a decision whether which one is more convincing to you. But other than that, it's interesting. Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says, we were taking the example of the Mormons coming in to do this. He says, have you ever seen a knock on the door where there is a professor of physics from Stanford who says, can I come in? I want to tell you a little bit about why you should study physics in Stanford. It doesn't happen. The reason it doesn't happen is that when you are ready to understand a particular subject matter, you will go to Stanford and study. And the general thinking is that proselytizing is done by people who are themselves not sure of what they're doing. Swami Dayanand used to say this. He said, it's very interesting. People don't like to drink alone. The more people you have, this is why people will you go to parties and says, come on, let's have a drink. And you say, no, come on. So if they don't feel, let's 5 or 6 people are all drinking alcohol, because that makes them more secure. There are also other people are all alcoholic, I'm also alcoholic, everything is fine. So, but if you are secure about what you're doing, then you don't go around trying to people to change or anything like that. So to answer your question, what I would say is that by all means, invite people to see without giving up their own beliefs as an additional understanding points. And if they decide not to come back, then that's fine also. That's okay. Yes, sir.
I think that the business of conversion or positivization started with the Abrahamic religions. Before the Abrahamic religions came into existence, starting with Judaism, all other religions that are called religions of the axial age, there is Jainism, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, and Zoroastrianism, never.
Yes, that's true.
That's true. I think it is probably the basis of each of these religions. Less so Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This conversion is an idea that has really gone deep inside, and they continue to do that. So,
Yeah.
I don't know why they do that. It's something that we don't understand, but they do it. Just an observation.
Yeah, I think you may be right.
They believe in the power of numbers. They want so much more money coming in, and so much more people believing.
Yeah.
So we don't believe in the power of numbers.
All right, so we will see you next week. Thank you.